Now, one of the issues that came across is this temporary salt storage dome facility, whatever we want to call it, that the board approved. Why was this kind of controversial, so to speak?
I think the major controversy was that we didn't really follow our standard processes in Arlington for civic engagement about the decision to locate this temporary structure where it would be and to do the rezoning required, take the rezoning action required in order to do so. And I think folks really felt like that was a breach of trust. The reasons that there was not more extensive engagement are twofold, with a much stronger emphasis on the latter. The first is this is a temporary use, right? So we probably wouldn't have done the extensive public facilities review that we might do for something, for example, like a community center that will exist for the next 50 years. However, the more salient reason is that the chief building inspector made a decision or determination that the permanent salt storage facility that has been serving the northern part of the county for many decades was no longer safe to operate this winter.
Which is rapidly approaching.
Rapidly approaching, which left the board with a really constrained timeline. The board expressed, both when we advertised the rezoning in July and again at this meeting, our frustration with that decision. And I don't think any of us think this is optimal, nor the way that we would like to proceed in Arlington in terms of civic engagement notice and beyond. So that was the source of the controversy. We are looking at, I think, some really diminished opinions of the county and how we do our process. And so as we think about not only the setting up of this temporary facility, but the long-term master planning for the site, which we can talk about in greater depth, we're all recognizing we have both an opportunity and are at a little bit of a deficit to rebuild trust right now, particularly with the neighbors surrounding this site.
So when you say temporary, how long are we talking?
That's a great question. It depends a little bit on how quickly the long-term visioning exercise moves forward and is completed. The long-term master planning task force, for which we adopted a charge this month and which will appoint members next month, is asked to consider the future home, permanent home for the salt facility. And so as they are able to conclude their work, if there is a clear recommendation for where that permanent facility can go, and as we're able to identify the money within our capital improvement plan, we will be then able to take down the temporary facility. But it is temporary in terms of a matter of years, probably about at least 3 years,
okay.
Potentially maybe a little more rather than, for example, months.
And this was needed immediately for safety issues, correct?
Yes, it was. We have to be able to service our roads. And you never know, in the area that we live, right? It could turn out that we have no snow events, no major events this season. And of course, it could snow. It doesn't seem like it today, but it's really and truly snow in November is not uncommon.
Unusual, yeah.
And so we wanted to make sure that we were ready by November 1. And if we didn't have that ready, then our ability would be extremely hampered to service all the roads, in particular the neighborhoods in North Arlington that are serviced by this location. So we had to make sure that we were in place by November 1.
So is the task force then to study the permanent location? Is that already underway? Are they already doing their work?
Actually, in the task force's scope is considerably larger. So a great reference point here might be if we think about the community facility study, that landmark group in 2015 that made a series of recommendations about improving joint planning, actually, between counties and schools, developed for us a use determination process. When we have a patch of land in the county, and this one, the area around the salt facility is 7.6 acres, what are the steps that we work through to think about what could fit here, what should go here, what's compatible for those uses. So this group will be studying not only the permanent home for salt operations, but also mulch storage, leaf operations and storage, some of the other industrial or light industrial needs that are important for serving the county, as well as open space, something like parkland uses there. And we've really tried to keep it as open-ended as possible. We suspect there might be members of this group that are interested in studying school facilities, housing, others, really more outside of the box pictures. We don't presume what their conclusions will be, and we want to make sure that they're set up to really have a wide-ranging conversation. That's something that I think we've really heard throughout the county, that we not set the box too small. And so we've really tried to not do that with this group and leave it open-ended. We've asked them to think about uses that are consistent with adopted plans or policies, so we're not totally out in left field, right? But I think there'll be an opportunity for them to really explore some ideas beyond those that are specifically described in the charge.
Okay. Well,
If I can add on that, the great opportunity that we have here is there's lots of uses that the county needs to find places for that people don't always think about, right?
well, they're not the most interesting or
or even highly visible. And so we've spent a great deal of time, though, working with the community and discussing with the community through the Joint Facility Advisory Committee that looked at when we were contemplating acquiring what's known as the Buck site on Quincy Street, across the street from Washington Lee High School. And we did acquire that site, and there's a lot of opportunity there that still needs some planning to go with it. And so the whole point here is that we do have a chance, as Katie just described, to really take a very long-term look at how can we get the most out of this property and do it in a way that is compatible with the neighborhood.
kind of an open book and essentially that you're giving this task force is, here you go, here's what it's been used for, here's everything we need, what's going to work in this area.
Yeah.